Good evening and welcome. This is Mr. Fight Companion, and this is my full UFC 311 full fight breakdown, full card breakdown, starting from the early prelims to the very tippity top main event. This is who I think is going to win for every fight. Let's get right into it. Starting with the first fight in the early prelims, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. There are a couple wild names that I may fuck up, but you know, it is what it is. Tagir Ulanbekov fights under Camp Khabib, so he is hyped right now. He is a bit of a heavy favorite in this fight versus Clayton Carpenter. He's got great ground game, obviously an effect of training under Khabib, but his striking leaves a lot of room for improvement. He's fighting Clayton Carpenter. Clayton Carpenter is also an up-and-comer. Let me just get the notes out. He's got great striking, and his grappling is also pretty resilient. He looks to be a very promising fighter as well. And you know, even though Tagir is the favorite, probably because of the fact that he trains under Camp Khabib. In other words, he trains under Khabib Nurmagomedov. He trains with him. So I understand why he is the favorite for this fight. I'm going to go with the underdog. I think Clayton Carpenter is going to pull a win out. Most likely just being a step ahead of Tagir on the feet. It may get dicey on the ground. Tagir may somehow win via submission. You never know. But I think Clayton's going to pull out a win here. I think he's going to piece up Tagir on the feet. He'll survive on the ground, maybe even reverse some positions and get some ground control time for himself, even some takedowns as well. And I think Clayton Carpenter wins this fight via unanimous decision. Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. Or even a split decision, but I'm going to go with unanimous decision win for Clayton Carpenter. Next up, Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sopaj. Ricky Turcios recently fought Raul Rosas, the moon-faced kid. In that fight, he pretty much got fucked up on the ground and got submitted by Raul. But, you know, his striking still is pretty great, you know. He's fighting Bernardo Sopaj. Bernardo is the favorite. He's got decent grappling, decent striking as well, pretty well-rounded in my opinion. And I'm going to go with Sopaj. You know, Sopaj is the favorite just because of how well he looks in his recent fights, but he did recently take a L. So both fighters are coming off of a loss. But I'm going to go with Sopaj. I think Sopaj gets it done in the second round via submission. I think Ricky Turcios' ground game is just pretty shit. Even though his striking is good, his ground game is shit. So I think Sopaj is going to be able to use that to his advantage, get Turcios to the ground and submit him there probably in the second round. Next up, Renaya Takamura versus Muin Gafurov. Takamura, he is the heavy favorite in this fight. I understand why. I think the guy is undefeated. He's well-rounded, extremely well-rounded. In his recent fights, he really just pieces people up on the feet as well as dominates them on the ground. He looks really good. You know, what more can I say? He's fighting Muin Gafurov. Gafurov has pretty good striking, and his ground game looks to be decent as well. I just think, you know, given how great Nakamura has looked in his previous fights, he should come out and dominate this one as well, being a step ahead of Gafurov in every second of it. So I'm going to go with Nakamura. He's the heavy favorite, so, you know, not much money to gain there, but still, it makes sense that he wins this fight. Most likely by unanimous decision. There is always a chance that he finishes the fight early, but I think, you know, Gafurov is good enough to at least survive the full fight. Next up, the women's fight, Carol Rosa versus the famous twerking Argentinian Alan Perez. I'm going to go with Alan Perez. You know, in my opinion, I think a lot of women's fights go to a decision. So it could be an all-out war, and I think it's just a war that Alan Perez somehow comes out on top of. So I'm going to go with Alan Perez on that one. Next up, Grant Dawson, Diego Ferreira. Grant Dawson is the favorite in this fight. He looks really, in his previous fights, he looks to be really well-rounded, you know. In a lot of them, he's just like outstriking people and out-grappling them as well. There was a fight where he did get caught by Bobby King Green, but, you know, at times you get caught, you know. That's just how the fight game goes sometimes. So he got caught, but overall, most of the time, he's a well-rounded fighter that looks really good. He's fighting Diego Ferreira. Ferreira's been in some wars, not like full round wars, but wars where he's taking punches but giving them back as well. He's more of a striker, but his ground game is decent. And for this one, even though Grant Dawson is the favorite, I don't know, something about Diego Ferreira has won me over, and I'm going to go with Diego to win this fight in the third round via TKO. I think it's an all-out war between both gentlemen, and Ferreira finds a really clean punch that puts Grant Dawson to the fucking ground to where Ferreira can finish the fight via ground and pound. I don't know. I think Ferreira kind of gives that Chito Vera spirit. He just looks like Chito Vera, but that's not the reason why I'm picking him. I'm picking him because of what he's done in previous fights and just how he's looked, you know, especially later in fights. So I think Diego Ferreira comes out on top on this one, and yeah, I'm going to go with the underdog, Diego Ferreira. Next up, Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elakana. Bogdan Guskov is a really well-rounded fighter, you know. He's got great grappling. He's got great striking. I think, you know, the UFC has chosen a lot of well-rounded individuals for this card. But yeah, Bogdan Guskov, a really well-rounded fighter. You know, I would argue that he's well-rounded. You know, his grappling isn't like top level, but I think it's decent, and he is more of a striker either way. Let me just pull this shit up here so I know. Yeah, Bogdan Guskov. Let me just fucking backtrack because the Guskov shit, my notes are kind of so jumbled. Let me just backtrack on Guskov. Bogdan Guskov, in my opinion, I would refer to the motherfucker as the light heavyweight Sergey Pavlovich. He actually has little to no fucking grappling at all. But on the feet, he looks to be pretty much a monster, you know. He can really generate some timely shots. He fought Ryan Spann. In his fight with Ryan Spann, he was able to find a really killer uppercut. That uppercut was nasty as shit. Put Ryan Spann right to the fuck. It didn't put him right to the ground. It wobbled him to where Guskov was then able to get him to the ground. But Guskov's got some sneaky power, man. And like I said, not much of a grappler, more of a striker. But I see a smaller Sergey Pavlovich in him. He's fighting Billy Elakana. Billy Elakana, this is Billy Elakana's first fight in the UFC. He is the favorite compared to Bogdan Guskov. And I think he's the favorite because of his grappling. He does have pretty great grappling, you know, in his previous fights, which weren't UFC fights, but they're still, you know, professional fights. He's shown some crafty grappling. He's got some submissions in there. So that's why I know a lot more people are going with him because, you know, against a fighter with little to no grappling, there's always the threat of grappling. So, you know, I understand why Billy Elakana is the favorite, but I'm still going to go with the underdog, Bogdan Guskov. I think Guskov finds some way to put Elakana to the ground. I think the uppercut's open for Guskov, but it may not be. Maybe Billy Elakana is trained heavy in the defense and the defensive side of striking. But I think the uppercut is open for Guskov. I think he'll go for it. And I think he'll go for it in the second round. I'm going to go with Bogdan Guskov, second round TKO. Not the most popular option, but I think it's a money-making option. And I think Guskov gets it done in the second round via TKO against Billy Elakana. We'll see what happens. Next up, Zachary Reese versus Asmat Bekoev. Zachary Reese is the actual one that I was talking about in the last fight. He's well-rounded. He's a really well-rounded fighter with some decent power as well. He's fighting Azamat Bekoev, who's also got great power and good striking. This might be Bekoev's first fight. Yeah, I think this is Bekoev's first fight in the UFC. Bekoev's the favorite, I think, likely because of the power he's shown and the good striking he's shown as well. But I think Reese is overlooked for this fight. I'm going to go with Zachary Reese just because of how well-rounded he has been, especially on the grappling side of things. And I think Reese makes it a grappling match, you know. Even on the feet, I think Reese has something to show. I think Reese will surprise the MMA world with his striking for this one. So I think Zachary Reese will pull out a win in the first round. I think this is my riskiest pick on the card. I think Zachary Reese wins this fight in the first round via TKO against Asmat Bekoev, and shocks us all, really. Next up, some fighters I'm actually like fully familiar with. Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcos. Peyton Talbot is a UFC up-and-comer that I've been really just raving about for a long time. Just because of how he fights, he's very assured of himself. The motherfucker moves forward at his opponent without a care in the world, like death is coming at you. Raoni Barcos is a UFC vet. You know, he's been seasoned, he's been tested. I think he's got better grappling than striking, and that's why I think Raoni has to make this a grappling match right away. If not, I think Talbot just moves forward, sets up a really nasty shot that puts Barcos out. So I've got Peyton Talbot winning this fight. I'm going to play it safe and say Peyton Talbot wins it in the second round rather than the first, because I think, you know, Barcos is a veteran. I think he's seen enough to where he'll be able to survive at least one round before he gets overwhelmed. So Peyton Talbot wins this via a nasty TKO or KO in the second round, early in the second round. Next up, and now we're in the main event. Kevin Holland versus Reinier de Ridder. I know some of you guys are Kevin Holland fans, so you know I'm not going to try to get too deep into him. I'm not a Kevin Holland fan, but respect to those who are, and respect to Kevin Holland. He makes the walk to the octagon. I'm not trying to disrespect him fully, but as a fighter, I am annoyed with him because he does seem to be lazy and kind of just, you know, combative at times, even with his own coaches. So I think Kevin Holland throws his game plan out the window, tries to strike with Reinier de Ridder, and I think Reinier de Ridder is going to find a way to bring Kevin Holland to the ground, out-grapple him, and probably submit him. You know, so I think Reinier de Ridder will get it done. I'm feeling a second round submission by Reinier de Ridder. I think Kevin Holland, you know, like I said, he'll throw his game plan out and just try to, you know, stand and bang with de Ridder, and he'll think that he's, you know, all that, and he'll find some way to clip him. And I think de Ridder just, you know, he's going to find a way to bring Kevin Holland to the ground, probably just kind of ducks under an overhand from Holland or a cross from Holland, you know, grabs Holland around the waist, drags him to the ground, finds some way to take the back, takes Kevin Holland's back and submits him probably via rear naked, you know, the old classic, or maybe it's a different submission. But Reinier de Ridder is a really well-qualified fighter on the ground especially, so I have de Ridder winning this fight in the second round via submission. Next up, Jelton Almeida versus Sergey Pavlovich. Jelton Almeida is a grappler in the heavyweight division. Not much of a striker, but you know his grappling is really, really good. He did fuck up when he fought Curtis Blades, left his head open while he was trying to fully commit to a double leg, and got knocked out. You know, I don't think he'll be able. I don't think that'll happen against Sergey Spivac. Sergey Spivac is a well-tested or a knowledgeable grappler as well. So I think this fight is going to almost fully be on the ground. I think this is going to be a grappling match and a half in this fight. So, and I think when that happens, I think Jelton Almeida is good enough to be a step ahead of Sergey Spivac on the ground and win via unanimous decision. It'll likely be a bit of a boring fight, but Jelton Almeida will come out on top, just given how good his grappling is. He'll probably just get, you know, a couple more takedowns than Spivac, or just like a couple more minutes of ground control time than Spivac. So yeah, Jelton Almeida via unanimous decision for that fight. Next up, this is gonna be a fun one. Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. I'm a big fan of Yuri Prochazka. But, you know, what's always been questionable about Yuri is his defense. There's little to none at times. He likes to drop his hands and come at his opponent from weird angles. He'll likely do the same against Jamal Hill. And Jamal Hill's boxing is too tight and conventional to, be caught lacking. So Jamal Hill, it'll likely be a bloody back and forth for 2 rounds. But I think in the third, Jamal Hill finds a way to make Yuri or force Yuri to quit. Because I don't see Yuri as a quitter. Even if he's hurt, he'll still continue to fight. But Jamal Hill will force him to quit. In other words, he'll knock Yuri out or just, wobble Yuri enough to where Yuri just physically can't fight anymore. And he'll likely just, finish Yuri via ground and pound. So Jamal Hill wins this fight in the third round via TKO and calls for a title shot, obviously. Next up, the co-main, Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. This is a really high-level fight. High intensity on the feet, high intensity on the ground, non-stop action. Highly controversial in terms of what's going to happen. I know a lot of you guys believe in Umar. Umar is obviously the favorite because of the whole Khabib. Khabib is his cousin. And I get why. Umar is talented on the ground, talented on the feet, really nice, clean kicking. And I think Umar is actually better than Merab on the ground and on the feet. The only thing that Merab has over Umar and somehow will, I think, give Merab the ability to win this fight is Merab's cardio and pace. Merab is a superhuman when it comes to those things, and he's actually gotten to the belt by doing that against really, really fucking big names like Henry Cejudo, Jose Aldo, and Peter Yan. And I think Merab will do the same to Umar. I think Umar will not come in as conditioned as Merab, cardio-wise and pace-wise, and Merab will outpace Umar likely in the third, fourth, and fifth rounds. In the first and second, I think Umar does outclass Merab, but Umar will then tire after those two, and Merab, it'll just become the Merab show, and Merab will find a way to win the third, and then win the fourth and fifth in dominant fashion, just constant takedowns, constant ground control, and maybe a sprinkling of striking in there too. But maybe not much just because of how good Umar is with striking. So I think Merab will likely just go to constant takedowns, constant grappling, and constant ground control for this fight. And he'll win it. I think he'll win it with those things. And like I said, a bit of striking too. That heavy overhands he likes, those heavy overhands he likes to use as he comes in and out of the pocket because he's constantly bouncing around because of that high intensity, high energy, high pace, and I think it'll be so much higher than Umar's, especially in those later rounds, the third, fourth, and fifth. So Merab wins this fight via unanimous decision or even a split decision, but I think it'll be a unanimous one, and he'll retain his belt, and the Dagestani curse will be broken. That's really what I think is going to happen. And then we come to the controversial main event. As you all know, because I posted a video recently, Arman Sakarian has pulled out of UFC 311, of the UFC 311 main event against Islam Makhachev because of a back injury. It has been said that he could not stand or move. That's how bad the back injury was. I don't know how you could fucking injure your back during a weight cut, but hey, it is what it is. Arman's out. Guess who's in? Mr. Money. Renato Moicano is in. He's fighting Islam. He's got his wish. He's got his dream. The motherfucker is blessed. And he's fighting Islam. Could Renato do it? It's the fight game. Anything can happen. I just think he won't. It'll be crazy if he could. He'll probably break Twitter and break all the apps if he's able to upset against one of the greatest lightweights in history. I think Khabib will even cry if somehow that's able to happen. Renato Moicano's grappling is vicious. Despite that, Islam's grappling is crazy good as well. It's Dagestani. It's the top form of grappling these days. And on top of that, Islam's striking is beautiful. And I think it's beautiful enough to knock out Renato Moicano in round 3. I think Renato survives round 1, 2, just kind of getting battered up on the feet, but, doing his thing on the ground as well. Probably getting a couple takedowns in for himself. Maybe some ground control, but I doubt Renato Moicano is going to be able to have as effective ground and pound as he did against Benoit Saint-Denis, just given how great Islam's grappling is. And I think in round 3, it'll just prove too much. Renato will try to stand and bang with Islam on the feet, and he won't be able to keep up. Islam will likely knock out Renato with a check hook, and that'll be it for Renato Moicano after the third round. But it'll still be tons of respect for him because he stepped in and he chased his dream, and he got a title shot, man. Not a lot of people fucking get those, and he was able to secure one after Arman Sakarian pulls out. So, bottom line, I think Islam wins this fight, you know, in the third round on the feet. You know, on the ground, I think he'll also be winning on the ground, but, you know, I think Renato will still be, like, you know, just behind Islam on the ground, just given how good his ground game is, because it is good. But on the feet, Renato Moicano is not a striker. A lot of people will say he is. I just think he's not. Even Jalen Turner was able to put him on his ass. And even though Jalen Turner didn't win the fight, because Renato was able to come back and beat Jalen, Jalen Turner, if he had any fucking focus in his head or any smarts at all, he would have finished the fight as soon as he knocked Renato on his ass. But he turned away because he thought he won the fight. Islam, I think, will be smarter than Jalen and be able to knock Renato on his ass or knock him out entirely and still be able to press for some ground and pound to assure the victory until Herb Dean or whatever ref is reffing this fight steps in and gives Islam the win. That's what happens. Overall, should be a great card. I look forward to it. It's happening in 30 minutes. Make sure to join my YouTube channel for my live stream. I'll be live on this channel as well as, I'll just be live on this channel. So check it out. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next.